Good morning, everybody. Last lecture, we started off with temperature transducers, and we saw two categories of temperature transducers. One was EMF based, and the second one was variable resistance based. Out of those two varieties, we started off with description of EMF based temperature transducer, and the type that we studied was thermocouples. Now we saw the thermocouple, which is based on Seebeck effect. If you have a dissimilar metal pair, and if you can maintain two junctions, one at hot bath and the other one at reference temperature. So to say, if we provide a temperature gradient between these two junctions, an EMF is induced in the external circuit, and that EMF or voltage can be measured and it can be correlated with the temperature difference. So this was the principle we studied. We saw the constructional details also. We saw various types, J type, K type, S type, various types of thermocouples. Now these thermocouples are widely used in many mechatronic devices. Many process control industries, they are used. In many mechanical industries, these are used. In various biomedical applications also, these are used. We'll see the applications later on. Let us see today the criteria for selection of thermocouples. As is the case is with rest of the transducers, there are specific selection criteria. The first and foremost is the temperature range which you want to measure, which you want to sense. Now, with this temperature range, in case of cryogenic applications, might start from -200 degrees Celsius and can come up to -150 degrees Celsius. So this is the entirely cryogenic range of temperatures. Cryogenic temperature range is nothing but you are reaching almost 0 Kelvin, that is -270, 273. So we have not achieved that temperature, but it is at most negative temperature that we have. The temperature beyond -150 degrees Celsius is called as cryogenic range of temperatures. In many industrial applications where the liquefied petroleum gas is to be transported in the ships, let us say, those are called as tankers. So we maintain cryogenic temperature so that liquid phase of the gas is maintained. So that is totally a negative temperature range. So we need to select appropriate thermocouple for such applications. Now, if you are moving towards maybe normal temperature range, let us say 0 to 70 degrees Celsius for our normal applications, my selection of thermocouples would be different. If I'm using this thermocouple for maybe a refrigerator or air conditioner, my temperature range of refrigerant would be ranging from, let us say, -15 degrees Celsius to maybe 30, 32 degrees Celsius. So depending on applications, I have to define the range of temperatures, and based on my temperature range, I need to select appropriate thermocouple. The second important selection criteria in case of thermocouples is chemical resistance of the thermocouple or sheath material. Now, what is this sheath material? Just last class we saw types of enclosures in which these thermocouples are placed. You have a tube-like structure, and the junction is placed between in that hollow cylindrical tube, that is called as the sheath of the thermocouple. Now, if you are talking about a pharmaceutical industry or chemical industry, wherein I want to measure the temperature of a chemical mixture, now the sheath along with the thermocouple would be immersed in that chemical bath. Now, in such a situation, my selection of thermocouple and thermocouple sheath material would be different. It have the chemical resistance or the corrosive resistance. Otherwise, that chemical will have some effect on this sheath material, and the purpose of measuring temperature will not be served. So that is also one important selection criteria. The third important selection criteria for thermocouples is abrasion. Abrasion, झीज ज्याला मराठीमध्ये आपण झीज म्हणतो. Now, the location at which these thermocouples are used, whether they are subjected to abrasion, they are subjected to erosion, जिथं खूप काही झीज व्हायची शक्यता आहे, there I need to select appropriate sheathing material of the thermocouple. Now, in some cases, suppose I am using this thermocouple for the measurement of bearing temperature, let us say. Now, in many of the mechanical industries, wherein I have a shaft and number of bearings which are lubricated properly, but because of malfunctioning, what happens is these bearings start heating up. And there is something called as condition monitoring system. All the time, the industries don't wait for the component to fail and then they take corrective actions. No, because their productive time would be hampered, it would be affected. So what they do is they continuously monitor the system parameters. Like in the hospitals, when the patients are admitted, all the physical parameters, temperature बघितलं जातं, blood pressure बघितलं जातं, pulse बघितलं जातं, all these parameters are constantly monitored. Similarly, for an industrial application, you have got number of shafts, number of bearings, number of gear pairs, number of mechanical components which are constantly dynamically loaded. Now, to maintain continuous functioning of those systems, there is something called as continuous condition monitoring system. It is a computer-based system wherein various sensors are used at various locations wherever there are chances of failure. Now, in such a situation, I was talking about heating up of bearing. Now, that bearing could be a journal bearing, or it could be a ball bearing, roller bearing, any type of bearing. So, if the bearing ball is eroded, let us say, or the lubrication is improper, is insufficient, what happens is that because of heavy friction, the bearing starts heating up. Now, there is a defined static bearing capacity and defined dynamic bearing capacity of a bearing given or any frictional component. If it goes beyond, if the heat generated due to friction because of the erosion of the bearing, if it goes beyond certain value, the bearing fails. And once the bearing fails, the entire assembly stops functioning and your productive time is affected and your productivity goes down and there is a downtime, and then all the orders would be affected. Your proper functioning would be affected. So to avoid such things, what the industries do is they continuously monitor various system parameters. So temperature is one of the parameters for condition monitoring. Now, I have a rotating shaft which is subjected to torsion and it is mounted on a bracket, let us say. So there I would be measuring the temperature of the bearing. So that temperature is sensed and sent to the controller, and you have the set value. If the bearing temperature goes beyond a certain value of temperature, immediately the maintenance man comes into the scene and he checks all the bearings, all the meeting assemblies, and he takes the corrective action. Maybe he provides additional lubrication in the form of oil, or maybe you have greases, those are used. So those corrective measures can be taken. Now, we are talking about the selection criteria. Now, in such cases, when I am monitoring temperature, so that assembly is constantly rotating. It is subjected to torsional vibrations. Now, my temperature sensing thermocouple would also be subjected to all those vibrations. Now, because of vibrations, the performance of my thermocouple should not get affected, or I should select such a thermocouple which can sustain those vibrations. So this is one of the important selection criteria for thermocouples. Now, the fourth important selection criteria is a practical requirement. You may need to be your installation may need to be compatible with existing equipment. Existing holes may determine probe diameter. Okay, this is a simple one. we always talk about an internal combustion engine. If you can see, there are so many mounting holes provided for water jackets or temperature sensing also. So ready-made holes are there to pick up or to mount the temperature sensing devices. So I need not have any special arrangement for mounting of my thermocouples. So based on the availability of mounting available on the equipment whose temperature is to be measured, I need to select appropriate sheath with those tabs, those kind of threadings. So these selection criteria help me in selecting appropriate thermocouple. We'll move to the applications. Applications we already discussed. To monitor the temperatures and chemistry throughout the steel making process. It's a huge continuous process wherein the property of the sheet that is rolled, the property of the eye section that is rolled, the property of the angle those are rolled, those are dependent on the temperature values. There, these temperature sensing thermocouples are widely used. For testing temperatures associated with process plants, chemical production, and petroleum refineries, there also you'll find applications of thermocouples. Testing of heating appliances safety. Okay, all your geysers, irons, and all furnaces there where I have the heating appliances, I can test those heating appliances by using thermocouples. The temperature profiling of ovens, furnaces, and kilns. This we already discussed. Temperature measurement of gas turbine and engine exhaust. So even in the jet propulsive gas turbines in aircraft, these temperatures of the exhaust gases and engine exhaust are constantly measured by using thermocouples. Monitoring of temperatures throughout the production and smelting process in steel, iron, and aluminum industry. So these thermocouples are widely used in such applications. So only thing is that we need to consider all the static and dynamic performance characteristics related with my processes, and accordingly I should select appropriate thermocouples for my application. Let us go to the second type of temperature transducer, that is variable resistance type. These are called as resistance temperature detector. So these are also called as RTDs. The principle is very simple. It uses the phenomena that the resistance of a metal changes with temperature. Of course, it has got positive temperature gradient, a positive temperature coefficient of resistance. It can be called as. So with increase of temperature, the resistance also increases. See the equation on heating up metals, the resistance increases, which follows a linear relationship. This correlation is given as RT, which is the resistance at temperature T, is equal to R naught. R naught is the temperature at 0 degrees Celsius into 1 plus alpha T. Alpha is the constant for the metal termed as temperature coefficient of resistance. So if we simplify this equation, it will be resistance at a given temperature, let us say resistance at 100 degrees Celsius is equal to resistance at 0 degrees Celsius. We will multiply this 0 degrees Celsius plus R naught, that is resistance at 0 degrees Celsius into alpha, temperature coefficient, into the temperature change or delta T. Okay, so you can see the proportionality. The resistance at a given temperature is proportional to the temperature change, and it has got positive temperature gradient. That means with increase of temperature, the resistance increases. The sensor is usually made to have a resistance of 100 ohms at what is the temperature that is given at 0 degrees Celsius. Okay. Now this is the representative value. It's always not necessary that it should be at 100 ohms only. Depending on the application and the material composition, the reference temperature or the resistance value at 0 degrees Celsius might vary from material to material. So this is a passive type of transducer. If you remember, we discussed about active transducers, wherein they generate the power of their own. Simple case of a thermocouple, wherein it generates an EMF of its own. So that is active type of a transducer. Now, RTD is a passive type of transducer, meaning for its functioning, for its functionality, I require some external circuit with some external power supply. Okay, so I require a balancing circuit. So those are called as passive transducers. So RTD is a passive transducer. What is the typicality? It has got positive temperature coefficient of resistance. So with increase of temperature, I have increase in resistance. Let us see the construction of this RTD. This part is the transducer part, the right part is the balancing circuit. Wheatstone bridge we discussed during the strain gauge circuitry studies also. So you have this portion called as the resistance thermometer. So you can see a thin resistance wire. This arrow shows variable resistance. Now this resistance changes as per the temperature changes. Okay, so you have this resistance wire is connected to the leads, and these leads are connected to one of the arms of the Wheatstone bridge. If you remember, Wheatstone bridge has got 4 arms, and correspondingly I have 4 resistances R1, R2, R3, R4. We saw the condition for balancing also, R1 by R2 is equal to R3 by R4, and this is the supply voltage that is given to Wheatstone bridge, and this is the output voltage that is measured from the Wheatstone bridge. This supply voltage is given to the bridge as the input, and this output voltage is tapped out of the bridge. Now this output voltage would be dependent upon the potential difference between these two apex points. Now this potential difference between these two apex points is dependent upon the resistance changes in these two arms. Now the remaining are the fixed resistors. Only this resistance is variable resistance. So as the resistance varies, this arm resistance is varying. So the bridge becomes unbalanced. So whatever delta R is occurring because of delta RT, this delta RT is proportional to alpha into delta T, isn't it? It's proportional to temperature. So whatever delta RT that I'm having, it will be causing imbalance in the Wheatstone bridge, and that imbalance leads to some output voltage that is impressed. So if the bridge is balanced, that means when it is at ambient, let us say it is calibrated at ambient temperature and all the resistances are same, in that case the bridge is balanced and I don't have any output voltage. Now when this is subjected to higher temperature values, what happens is with increase of temperature, the resistance increases. As this resistance increases, the bridge becomes unbalanced and I have got some impressed output voltage. Now this delta V, change in output voltage, is proportional to change in delta RT. Now this change in delta RT is proportional to alpha into delta T. Alpha is the temperature coefficient of resistance corresponding to this wire. So this is how the temperature change can be correlated with resistance change, and resistance change can be correlated with voltage change. So this is the analog voltage output I'm getting. This can be properly processed to get me the digital voltage by using appropriate A to D converter. So I can have a digital display, or this can be given to my furnace controller whose temperature I want to maintain. I want to maintain the temperature of the furnace at 1000 degrees Celsius, let us say. So what happens is, so I wait till the temperature becomes 1000 degrees. How the control system comes to know about what is the present value of the temperature inside the furnace? Through this RTD. This will send the controller a signal corresponding to different temperature values in terms of current values or the voltage values. So these voltages corresponding to particular temperature are compared with the set value of the furnace temperature, and accordingly, if the temperature of the furnace is required to be 1000 degrees Celsius and if the temperature is 900 degrees Celsius as sensed by this RTD, I have error of plus 100 degrees Celsius. So to compensate for this error, to reduce this error, what we do, or the controller should actuate the heating coil or whatever is the source of heat. If it is steam is the source of heat, it will allow more steam to get into the furnace. or if it is the furnace gases, if the gas is to be burned, oil is to be burned, accordingly the actuators are started till the desired temperature of 1000 degrees Celsius is achieved inside the furnace. So this is how it is not just temperature measuring transducer, it will be sending signals to my controller also, so the entire furnace control system can be maintained. So this is how this RTD is shown. So we have the insulating sheathing. Of course, this is electrical insulation as well as thermal insulation. Sheath is provided, protective sheath. Let us move to the details of or the advantages of platinum as RTD. As we can see from the graph, we can use various resistance wires as resistance temperature detector materials. Okay, it should be electrically conducting as well as thermally conducting. That is what is the requirement. Now what you can see, you have temperature on x-axis and ratio of temperature resistance at desired temperature to the reference or resistance at 0 degrees Celsius. This ratio provides me the resistance ratio corresponding to delta T. Okay. So this is called as normalized resistance. Okay. As you can see from the graph, platinum wire, if it is used as a material for resistance temperature detector, right from 0 degrees Celsius, so up to 1000 degrees Celsius, it provides me a linear relationship. What do you mean by linear relationship? It is nothing but proportionate relationship. So corresponding to temperature of 200 degrees, I'll be having a resistance ratio of, let us say, 2, right? Or maybe 1.5. And at 400 degree, I'll have maybe almost double of that value. So I have a proportionate increase in resistance, proportionate increase. So there is a linearity in the relationship between resistance change and temperature change. And this linearity remains throughout the range. And that's why platinum is a preferred material for resistance temperature detector. If you see the copper, what happens? Copper is showing me linear relationship maybe up to maybe 600 degrees Celsius, maybe 500 to 600 degrees Celsius. Thereafter, you can see the curvilinear nature. So what does that mean? Corresponding to unit change in temperature, I might get larger resistance change. So it's a non-linear relationship. It's not a proportionate resistance change corresponding to temperature change. So beyond 4 and 450, 500, copper tends to become non-linear. Copper as a RTD material tends to show non-linear properties. So if you're going to use this RTD for a range from 0 to 400, fine, you can go in for copper as a material. The third material, as you can see, is nickel. This is it has got different characteristics now. At lower temperature ranges, maybe 0 to 300 degrees Celsius, 0 to 400 degrees Celsius, it shows negative. It shows non-linear resistance change. Corresponding to small change, I get larger resistance change. Corresponding to small change, I get larger resistance change. But beyond 400 degrees Celsius, it shows me linear relationship between resistance change and temperature change. So I can use nickel as my RTD material if my temperature requirements are between 400 degrees Celsius to maybe 1200 degrees Celsius, maybe 1500 degrees Celsius. So depending upon my application requirements, I select appropriate material as my resistance temperature detector material. The platinum, because it shows linear characteristics, it is a preferred material for resistance temperature detector. The temperature resistance characteristics of pure platinum are stable over the wide range of temperatures. It has high resistance to chemical attack and contamination. This is very important characteristics which makes it suitable for use in maybe petrochemical industry, pharmaceutical industry even. It forms the most easily reproducible type of temperature transducer with a high degree of accuracy. The accuracy of platinum as a RTD material is also very high. It can have accuracy of plus or minus 0.01 degree Celsius up to 500 degrees Celsius. Very good accuracy value. We studied this static performance characteristics. So this is actually inaccuracy to the tune of plus or minus 0.01 degree Celsius, and a bit of higher inaccuracy for temperatures between 500 to 1200 degrees Celsius, 0.1 degree plus or minus 0.1 degree Celsius. So depending upon my accuracy and precision requirements, I need to select appropriate resistance temperature detector. Though we have seen many advantages of my resistance temperature detectors, obviously there are few limitations as well. As these are the resistive devices, and accordingly they function by passing a current through a resistor. Even though only a very small current is generally employed, it creates a certain amount of heat, thus can throw off the temperature reading. So because of, as we discussed in strain gauges, similar is the case. We are presuming that the temperature change is only because of, the resistance change is only because of temperature change of the conducting wire. But because of the convective losses in the resistance wire, my temperature readings might show me some erroneous values. So localized heating will be there. So what does this statement mean is that even if the RTD wire is not subjected to temperature, as the current is flowing through the conducting wire, on its own it will start heating up. And because of its own self-heating, its resistance might change. This is what is the meaning. So this is a small limitation. Of course, there are compensation circuitries which can take care of this small leakage currents or small variations in the resistances because of heating of the conducting wire can be taken care of. This self-heating in resistive sensors can be significant when dealing with a still fluid, one that is neither flowing nor agitated, because there is less carry-off of the heat generated. Okay. So the stagnant fluid temperatures, if we are measuring, this localized heating will be more pronounced, so to say. So there, this problem does not arise with thermocouples, which are essentially zero current devices. So in such situations, thermocouples prove to be more beneficial as far as localized heating is concerned. The applications, quickly we'll see. Air conditioning, refrigeration, servicing, RTDs are used. Food processing industries, maybe biscuit industries, milk product industries, bakery product industries. So there we find use of these RTDs. Stoves and grills, maybe in commercial kitchens, stoves are there and grills are there. So there also we can make use of RTDs. Textile production industries, plastic processing industries, petrochemical processing, microelectronic industries, air, gas, and liquid temperature measurement in pipes and tanks. So these are a few application areas of resistance temperature detectors. So we shall stop for today. We'll see the comparison of thermocouple and RTD in the next class. So in the meantime, we'll stop for today. As I told in the previous classes, we are coming to an end within a couple of lectures. We might finish unit number 1. So we need to be ready with the quizzes and assignments. Please subscribe to our AGPIT e-learning channel. Observe, see all the videos, listen to the videos, prepare notes which are available on the net. I have provided these notes in our Google Classroom. Even on the net, you have the book available on PDF drive. Also, Bolton's book is available. There are many books available. So you should start studying now. We are already into our 12th lecture. So okay, we'll stop for today. Thank you for your patient listening. Take very good care of yourself. Thank you.